The air in the K9 unit training yard hung heavy, not just with the scent of damp earth and canine, but with a palpable tension that mirrored the gray skies overhead. Officer Rex, a magnificent German shepherd whose lineage boasted champions and heroes, stood motionless amidst the commotion, a stark contrast to the energetic barking and focused drills of his counterparts. His usually keen eyes, often alight with intelligence and eagerness, were now dull, unfocused, and utterly void of interest. A thrown retrieve dummy, usually a source of boundless joy, lay ignored at his paws. Commands from his handlers, sharp and clear, seemed to pass through him like a whisper in the wind, leaving no impression. It was an anomaly, a perplexing deviation from the norm that had everyone concerned, a cloud of anxiety settling over the usually vibrant facility. Among the bewildered faces was Officer David, a man whose dedication to the force was matched only by his profound compassion for animals. With broad shoulders and a kind, observant gaze, David was known for his ability to connect with even the most challenging K9 recruits. He saw potential in every wagging tail and soulful stare, firmly believing that every creature, especially those destined to serve, deserved patience and understanding. But Rex was different. David had tried everything he knew, every trick, every gentle coaxing, yet Rex remained an enigma, a beautiful, powerful dog seemingly lost in a world of his own silent despair. This was the K9 unit of a bustling American city's police academy, a place where only the best and most promising dogs were chosen, where standards were rigorously upheld, and training was intense and unforgiving. The clang of equipment, the shouts of trainers, the rhythmic thud of paws on the dirt track, it was all part of the daily symphony of dedication and discipline. Police dogs here were not mere pets. They were partners, protectors, and lifesavers, each destined for a role that demanded peak physical and mental conditioning. A K9 officer's bond with their dog was sacred, built on trust, respect, and countless hours of shared effort. But with Rex, that sacred bond seemed to be fraying before it had even truly begun. The core of the conflict was Rex's inexplicable refusal to engage. He wouldn't participate in the agility course, ignored tracking scents, and most alarmingly, shunned his food. His bowl, usually licked clean within minutes, sat untouched, kibble growing stale. It wasn't just a matter of inconvenience, it was a serious health concern. The academy vets had run every diagnostic test imaginable, their brows furrowed in confusion, finding no physical ailment to explain his dramatic withdrawal. Trainers, seasoned veterans who had worked with hundreds of dogs, were equally baffled. Whispers began to circulate about Rex's future, a future that looked increasingly grim if he couldn't find his footing. A police dog that refused to eat, refused to train, was a liability, a tragic waste of potential. David, however, refused to give up. He spent extra hours with Rex, sitting quietly in his kennel, speaking in soft, reassuring tones. He brought in different brands of high-quality dog food, thinking perhaps a change in diet might tempt the dog. He tried hand-feeding, offering morsels directly to Rex's snout, but the shepherd would only turn his head away, a profound sadness etched in his noble features. Rex seemed to shrink in on himself, becoming a shadow of the vibrant dog he was meant to be. This once proud animal, descended from a long line of working dogs, now appeared withdrawn, his spirit muted. It was heartbreaking to witness, a silent plea for something unknown, something beyond their current understanding. David knew, deep in his gut, that something profoundly personal was afflicting Rex, something that went beyond standard training manuals or medical charts. If you're captivated by stories of courage, connection, and the incredible bond between humans and animals, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have so many more heartwarming tales waiting to be shared, stories that prove heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most unexpected places. Rex's inexplicable refusal to eat or train quickly escalated from a puzzling behavioral issue to a dire health concern. Each passing day saw him withdraw further into himself, his once vibrant coat dulling, his muscular frame growing noticeably gaunt. The once energetic police dog, poised for a distinguished career, became a shadow of his former self. He began to exhibit signs of lethargy so profound that even coaxing him to stand became a struggle. The veterinary team, initially baffled, now discussed more drastic interventions, their voices hushed and grim. The unspoken truth hanging in the air was devastating. If Rex continued to decline at this rate, the Academy would have no choice but to discharge him from service. For Officer David, this prospect was a gut-wrenching blow, a personal failure that gnawed at his core. David felt a heavy weight of responsibility settle upon him, a palpable sense of inadequacy. He had prided himself on his ability to connect with animals, to understand their subtle cues and forge unbreakable bonds. Yet, with Rex, he felt utterly powerless, as if an invisible wall stood between them, impenetrable and cold. He saw in Rex's despair a reflection of his own past struggles, moments when he too had felt lost and isolated, unable to articulate the pain that held him captive. The K9 unit, a place of intense discipline and emotional fortitude, offered little room for such personal introspection. Yet David couldn't shake the feeling that Rex's suffering ran deeper than any physical ailment. He knew in his heart it was an emotional wound, one he desperately needed to mend. The external pressures mounted relentlessly. Colleagues, with their well-meaning but ultimately pragmatic advice, began to voice their doubts more openly. "Maybe he's just not cut out for it, David," they'd suggest, or "some dogs just don't make the grade." His superiors, while initially supportive, now conveyed a distinct sense of urgency. The K9 unit's rigorous standards were non-negotiable. Every dog had to be in peak physical and mental condition, ready to face the intense demands of police work. There was no room for sentimentality when public safety was at stake, and exceptions were rarely, if ever, made. David felt his time with Rex rapidly running out, a ticking clock measuring the moments before a decision he dreaded would be made. Driven by a desperate hope, David began spending every possible spare moment with Rex. He'd arrive at the kennel before dawn, long after his shift had ended, simply to sit beside the dejected animal. He tried everything he could imagine, offering gourmet dog foods flown in from specialty stores, tempting him with savory scraps from his own meals, introducing new squeaky toys designed to stimulate even the most disinterested pup. He'd bring in soft blankets, play calming music, and even read aloud from old novels, his voice a low, comforting rumble in the quiet kennel. He spoke to Rex in gentle tones, recalling their brief, hopeful moments together before this dark cloud had descended. He attempted to rekindle the spark that had once shone so brightly in Rex's intelligent eyes, but nothing, absolutely nothing, seemed to penetrate the profound emotional barrier Rex had erected around himself. The dog remained aloof, apathetic, his gaze distant and hollow. It was all so perplexing, so heartbreaking, especially considering Rex's background. He wasn't just any dog. He was a highly pedigreed German shepherd, from a lineage renowned for producing exceptional police and military working dogs. His parents and grandparents had served with distinction, their names etched into the Academy's honor roll. Rex himself had demonstrated immense promise in his early training phases. He was intelligent, eager to please, and possessed an innate courage that marked him as a future leader within the K-9 unit. Everyone had believed he was destined for greatness, a natural fit for the demanding life of a police dog. To see such a powerful, promising animal reduced to this state of listless despair was not just a professional disappointment, but a profound personal tragedy. In a modest urban dwelling, nestled among a block of aging apartment buildings, lived a young girl named Lily. Her world, though vibrant with the colors of childhood imagination, was also marked by the stark realities of scarcity. She possessed an innate kindness, an empathy that seemed to radiate from her slender frame, but her daily life was a quiet struggle. Lily's clothes, though always meticulously clean, were often hand-me-downs, hinting at a family doing their best with very little. Her home circumstances instilled in her a deep appreciation for the small comforts others took for granted, and a profound sensitivity to suffering in any form. Every weekday, Lily embarked on a familiar journey to school, a route that wound through several city blocks, past bustling storefronts, quiet residential streets, and notably, the imposing high-fenced perimeter of the police academy's K-9 training grounds. The academy, with its vast green spaces and the occasional glimpse of powerful dogs in training, was a world away from her own, yet it was a constant backdrop to her routine. Sometimes she would pause by the fence, peering through the chain links, mesmerized by the disciplined yet playful movements of the police dogs. She often dreamed of having a dog herself, a friend to share her quiet moments, but such a luxury was simply unattainable. One particularly overcast afternoon, as Lily walked home, her school bag heavy on her shoulder, she noticed a dog that seemed different from the others. He wasn't engaged in the vigorous exercises she usually observed. Instead, he lay slumped by the far side of the fence, his head resting on his paws, his gaze distant and utterly forlorn. It was Rex. His once shining coat seemed dull, his posture defeated. A pang of sympathy shot through Lily. She recognized that look, that quiet despair, a feeling she sometimes mirrored in her own small heart when things felt overwhelming. Her own struggles had taught her to see beyond the surface, to intuit the deeper feelings of others, even animals. She felt an undeniable pull, a shared understanding with the sad dog. Lily didn't have much. Her lunch, carefully packed by her mother each morning, was often a simple sandwich and perhaps an apple. Today, however, she had a piece of plain bread left over from her sandwich, a small, unassuming crust that she had saved, perhaps for a bird, or simply because wasting food was unthinkable. As she watched Rex curled into himself, she knew what she had to do. Without a second thought, driven by a pure, unadulterated compassion, she approached the fence. "Hey, boy," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible above the distant city sounds. Rex lifted his head slowly. His eyes, previously devoid of all light, flickered with a faint curiosity. He didn't move, still wary, still broken, but he watched her. Lily, understanding his hesitation, gently pushed the small crust of bread through a gap in the fence, her hand outstretched with an innocent, hopeful offering. To the astonishment of anyone who might have been watching, and indeed, Officer David was, though from a distance, Rex, the dog who had stubbornly refused every gourmet kibble, every specially prepared meal, every enticing treat offered by his handlers, slowly, cautiously rose to his feet. He sniffed the air, his nose twitching, then took a hesitant step toward the fence. His tail gave the barest flicker, a movement so subtle it might have been imagined. With a gentle nudge of his snout, He took the bread from Lily's tiny hand. He didn't devour it. Instead, he ate it with a quiet dignity, a slow, deliberate chewing, as if savoring not just the taste, but the unexpected warmth of the gesture. For the first time in weeks, a glimmer of life, a spark of connection, returned to Rex's eyes. Lily watched, her own heart swelling with a quiet triumph, knowing that in her small way, she had offered comfort where it was desperately needed. Officer David, concealed by the shadows of a nearby training shed, had witnessed the entire, almost miraculous exchange. His heart had pounded with a mix of disbelief and an overwhelming surge of hope. He had seen countless attempts to coax Rex into eating, all met with the same cold, desolate rejection. Yet, a simple crust of bread, offered by a small, unassuming girl, had achieved what weeks of expert intervention could not. The sight of Rex, slowly, deliberately chewing that piece of bread, a flicker of something akin to contentment in his gaze, was nothing short of a revelation. David felt a profound shift in his understanding of Rex, and indeed, of his own expectations. He held his breath, waiting, watching as Lily's small hand lingered near the fence, a silent promise of connection. When she finally turned to leave, a shy smile gracing her lips, David knew he had to act. He approached the fence cautiously, not wanting to startle the girl or break the fragile spell that had just been woven. Lily, hearing his footsteps, turned, her eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and a hint of fear, probably wondering if she was in trouble for interacting with a police dog. David offered her a warm, reassuring smile. "That was incredibly kind of you," he said, his voice gentle. He quickly introduced himself, Officer David, and explained his role as Rex's handler. As he spoke, he observed Lily even more closely. Her clothes, though clean, were well worn, and a quiet resilience seemed to cling to her like a second skin. He learned she walked past the academy every day on her way home from school, a routine born of necessity. He understood, with a pang, that her act of generosity wasn't just about spare bread, it was about sharing what little she had, a testament to her innate goodness. From that day forward, a quiet ritual began. Lily, without fail, would stop by the fence after school. She rarely had much to offer beyond a small portion of her own meager snack, a half-eaten apple, a few crackers, or another precious piece of bread. But it wasn't the quantity of food that mattered. It was the consistency of her presence, the gentle cadence of her voice, the unwavering warmth in her eyes. Rex, who had once been a shadow of his former self, began to anticipate her visits. He would be waiting by the fence, not with the frenetic energy of a typical dog, but with a quiet readiness, his ears perked, a subtle wag of his tail betraying his joy. These interactions, initially lasting only a few minutes, stretched longer as David, now an active participant in this beautiful secret, would ensure Lily had a few extra moments with Rex. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, Rex began to mend. The change wasn't immediate, nor was it a sudden dramatic recovery. It was a gradual unfolding, like a flower turning towards the sun after a long winter. He started to show interest in his regular food again, taking a few bites, then a full meal. His movements became less sluggish, his eyes brighter, reflecting the spark that Lily had reignited within him. He would still lie by the fence, but now it was often with his head up, scanning the path for Lily, rather than lying in defeated resignation. His fur regained some of its sheen, his posture less withdrawn, hinting at the powerful dog he once was. Officer David watched this transformation with a growing sense of awe and profound gratitude. He realized that Rex's initial refusal to eat or train wasn't a physical ailment, as the vets had suspected, nor was it a failure of spirit in the conventional sense. It was a deep emotional wound, a silent protest against an unseen sorrow. Lily, with her uncomplicated kindness and unwavering empathy, had reached a part of Rex that all the rigorous training and professional nurturing had missed. She wasn't a trainer, a vet, or an officer. She was simply a girl who understood what it meant to feel overlooked, to struggle, and to find comfort in a shared, silent moment of connection. David understood now that the key to unlocking Rex's potential, to bringing him back from the brink, wasn't discipline or specialized diets, but the simple, powerful medicine of genuine human connection. Lily's compassion was the unseen force, the quiet miracle, mending a broken spirit one small, shared crumb at a time. The subtle shift in Rex's demeanor, initially imperceptible to most, gradually became undeniable to the K9 unit staff. His weight, previously a cause for serious concern, began to stabilize and even increase, albeit slowly. The lethargy that had cloaked him like a shroud started to dissipate, replaced by a nascent spark of interest in his surroundings. Trainers, who had all but written him off, exchanged baffled glances. They meticulously reviewed his daily logs, desperately searching for a rational explanation for this remarkable, albeit mysterious, turnaround. Cautious optimism began to ripple through the unit, a fragile hope that perhaps Rex wasn't a lost cause after all. Yet, the underlying cause of this dramatic change remained a frustrating enigma, baffling even the most experienced professionals. No new medical interventions had been introduced, no changes in diet beyond the usual varied attempts, no particular training breakthroughs. It was as if Rex had simply decided to live again. Officer David, however, carried the weighty knowledge of the true catalyst for Rex's transformation. He watched Lily's daily, almost reverent interactions with Rex from a discreet distance, his heart a complex mix of relief, gratitude, and a growing dilemma. How could he explain to the rigid, rule-bound academy staff that their star police dog was being rehabilitated by a young girl who, by all official standards, shouldn't even be interacting with a service animal, let alone feeding him? He knew the regulations inside and out. Unauthorized contact, feeding external food, these were serious breaches, potentially jeopardizing Rex's training and even the academy's liability. David felt a fierce protectiveness toward both Rex and Lily. He wanted to shield Lily from any reprimand, grateful for her innocent kindness, and he wanted to safeguard Rex's newfound spirit, which was so clearly tethered to their quiet, unspoken bond. Thus, David embarked on a delicate and covert operation. He shrewdly adjusted his patrol schedule, ensuring he was almost always present during Lily's usual visiting hours. He subtly positioned himself to create an unspoken barrier, a zone of privacy around their interactions. He'd make sure gates were unlocked just enough for her to slip through, or arrange his duties so that he was conducting mock patrols near Rex's enclosure precisely when Lily was expected. He never spoke directly about her visits with anyone, deflecting questions about Rex's improvement with vague references to new dietary supplements or adjustments in routine. He knew he was walking a fine line, risking his own standing for the sake of an unconventional but undeniably effective therapy. But seeing the light return to Rex's eyes, witnessing the dog's expectant posture as Lily approached, David knew it was a risk he had to take. Their bond, forged in a shared moment of vulnerability and compassion, was too precious to be broken by bureaucratic red tape. Encouraged by the consistent, calm presence of his young rescuer, Rex's journey back to his true self slowly gained momentum. David, observing closely, began to reintroduce elements of his training. Initially, Rex responded with the same hesitant reluctance, a shadow of his former withdrawal. But then, David noticed something remarkable. If Lily was within sight, perhaps sketching quietly on a bench just outside the training area, Rex's focus sharpened. His ears perked up, his tail gave a tentative wag, and his movements became more fluid, more purposeful. He would respond to commands with increasing alacrity, his latent instincts reawakening. It was as if Lily's quiet faith in him provided an invisible anchor, a psychological safe harbor from which he could venture back into the demanding world of police dog training. The deepening unspoken connection between Rex and Lily became a powerful, almost mystical force. It was a bond built not on commands and rewards, but on pure, unadulterated empathy and understanding. David watched, awestruck, as Rex, who had once been a symbol of failure and despair, was now slowly but surely being pieced back together by the simple, profound kindness of a child. This quiet miracle unfolded day by day, inspiring David to believe even more deeply in the unseen forces that connect living beings, and in the sheer transformative power of a truly empathetic heart. Rex's recovery was no longer just about getting a police dog back on track. It had become a testament to humanity, a silent symphony of healing orchestrated by a little girl and her crust of bread. The air in the K9 training yard hung thick with anticipation, a palpable tension as Officer David led Rex to the starting line of the simulated exercise. This was it, the first real test of Rex's readiness for active duty in weeks, perhaps months. Every eye from the academy leadership, the senior trainers, and even some curious junior officers was fixed on them. David felt the weight of their scrutiny, but his gaze remained fixed on Rex, offering a silent, reassuring presence. He knew what was at stake, not just for Rex's career, but for the fundamental belief he held in second chances and the power of empathy. Unbeknownst to most, David had carefully orchestrated a small, vital detail. Tucked away in a camouflaged observation booth, a discreet distance from the main training area, sat Lily. He had arranged for her to be there, believing implicitly that her calm, loving presence, even unseen, would provide the anchor Rex needed. He had explained the importance of silence and stillness to her, and Lily, understanding the gravity of the situation, sat clutching a small, worn teddy bear, her eyes wide with a mixture of nervousness and unwavering faith in her canine friend. David had seen the subtle cues, the way Rex's ears would twitch when Lily was nearby, the almost imperceptible calming of his breath. It was a risk, a deviation from standard protocol, but David trusted his instinct and, more importantly, he trusted the bond between the girl and the dog. The command echoed across the yard, sharp and clear. "Rex, track." For a split second, a collective breath was held. Would he waver? Would the old lethargy return? But Rex, with a surge of energy that surprised even David, launched forward. His powerful muscles rippled as he followed the scent trail with an intensity no one had witnessed in him for ages. He navigated the obstacle course with precision, his focus absolute. He scaled the wall, tunneled through the dark culvert, and located the hidden suspect with an almost predatory efficiency. Every movement was fluid, purposeful, reflecting the well-honed instincts of a top-tier police dog. He was no longer the withdrawn, melancholic creature. He was Rex, the formidable K9, sharp and dedicated. The onlookers, initially skeptical, slowly began to exchange glances of utter astonishment. The Academy's leadership, a group notorious for their stern expressions and unflappable demeanor, could barely conceal their awe. Rex's performance was not merely adequate, it was spectacular. He didn't just meet expectations, he shattered them. His focus, his determination, his sheer drive, it was all unequivocally back, proving his potential was not just intact, but perhaps even amplified. The lingering doubts that had clouded his future evaporated with each perfectly executed maneuver. As Rex returned to David's side, tail held high, a quiet but undeniable round of applause broke out among the trainers and officers. The K-9 unit leadership, usually reserved, approached David, their faces a mixture of surprise and profound respect. They acknowledged Rex's remarkable turnaround, his resurgence nothing short of miraculous in their eyes. Though the precise reason for his sudden, dramatic improvement remained a mystery to most. Whispered theories ranged from a sudden dietary change to a new training technique David might have deployed. No one suspected the true catalyst: a small, kind girl and a crust of bread. David, however, felt a profound sense of relief and quiet triumph. He met Rex's clear, intelligent eyes, offering a deep pat to his head, a silent acknowledgement of their shared secret. He knew the truth behind Rex's miraculous recovery, understanding that it wasn't about stricter diets or harsher drills, but about the powerful, almost alchemical impact of Lily's pure, uncomplicated compassion. It was a victory not just for Rex, but for the unspoken belief that sometimes the most profound healing begins with the simplest act of kindness. He looked toward the observation booth, catching a glimpse of Lily's beaming face, her eyes shining with tears of joy. Their secret was safe, and Rex, once lost, was now found, ready to fulfill his purpose. The echoes of appreciation still lingered in the air as Rex, panting slightly but undeniably invigorated, stood proudly beside Officer David. The K-9 unit leadership, their initial skepticism replaced by undeniable admiration, wasted no time. Rex was officially reinstated into the police dog program, a decision that brought an immense wave of relief and profound joy to David. The paperwork was expedited, the medical clearances reviewed with positive affirmations, and Rex's kennel nameplate, once almost destined for storage, was now firmly secured, a testament to his incredible comeback. David allowed himself a rare, wide smile, ruffling Rex's fur, a silent promise that he would protect this bond at all costs. But David knew that simply reinstating Rex wasn't enough. The incident had exposed a vulnerability, a profound emotional depth in Rex that traditional training methods had entirely missed. And the key to unlocking that depth was Lily. With Lily's mature and thoughtful permission, David decided to subtly share the story of her quiet kindness with his immediate superiors. He chose his words carefully, framing it not as a miracle cure, but as a demonstration of the profound emotional connection and empathy that had been instrumental in Rex's recovery. He spoke of the dog's deep depression, the baffling lack of response to all conventional interventions, and then the inexplicable turnaround after a simple, pure act of compassion from a young girl. He emphasized how Lily's gentle spirit had managed to penetrate Rex's emotional barrier when all else had failed. His superiors, initially a little bewildered by this unconventional explanation, eventually came to understand the deeper truth. They saw the undeniable evidence in Rex's renewed vitality. The academy, while rooted in discipline and protocol, also valued effectiveness. If Lily was part of Rex's effectiveness, then her role, albeit unique, deserved consideration. Thus, Lily, while maintaining her inherently humble nature, began to find a new, profound sense of validation and purpose through her unwavering bond with Rex. Her visits, once clandestine and almost illicit, now became an officially sanctioned, supervised part of Rex's daily routine. She wasn't just a child visiting, She was an essential component of Rex's emotional well-being, an unsung hero in his remarkable story. The academy even provided a small, comfortable bench for her near Rex's exercise yard, a quiet acknowledgement of her unique contribution. Rex, once the forgotten, withdrawn dog, now became an unintentional symbol of resilience and the astonishing power of empathy within the force. His story, told in hushed tones among the canine handlers, served as a poignant reminder that strength wasn't always about brute force. Sometimes it was about the quiet, healing power of connection. He began to feature prominently in community engagement programs alongside Officer David, designed to foster positive relationships between the police and the public. These events often saw children flocking to Rex, drawn by his gentle demeanor, and occasionally, Lily would be there too, a quiet, beaming presence, sharing a knowing glance with her canine friend. These appearances brought an unexpected warmth to the K9 unit, softening its imposing image. And so, a new form of partnership blossomed, not just between David and Rex, but also implicitly including Lily. David and Rex became an inseparable and exceptionally effective team. They tackled cases with a newfound vigor, their synchronization almost telepathic. David navigated the streets with his loyal companion, Rex's keen senses and unwavering presence a constant source of assurance. Together, they embodied a powerful narrative, always carrying the invisible thread of Lily's initial, simple kindness, interwoven within the fabric of their professional partnership. Every successful track, every apprehension, every moment of service was underpinned by that first, selfless act, a crust of bread offered with a pure heart, changing not just one life, but many. The city, unknowingly, was safer, not just because of a highly trained police dog, but because of the quiet compassion that had brought him back from the brink. Rex thrived as a police dog, a magnificent embodiment of dedication and skill. His previous potential, once shrouded in inexplicable melancholy, now shone brilliantly through every patrol, every search, every interaction. The initial doubts held by the K9 unit leadership had long since vanished, replaced by an unwavering admiration for his capabilities. He excelled in his duties, showcasing an uncanny ability to track, an unyielding courage in dangerous situations, and an instinctive understanding with Officer David that bordered on telepathy. Their bond was not merely professionally strong. It was a profound, unspoken connection forged in adversity and sealed by empathy. David often reflected on the early days, the frustrating helplessness he felt, and the sheer joy of witnessing Rex's transformation. Every successful mission was not just a win for the force, but a quiet testament to the resilience of a spirit once thought broken. Lily, though not omnipresent, remained a constant, cherished presence in Rex's life. Her visits, now officially sanctioned and often involving gentle games of fetch or quiet moments of shared companionship, were sacred. Each meeting was a source of undeniable comfort and inspiration for both of them. For Lily, the simple act of stroking Rex's powerful head or sharing a few whispered words was a grounding force, a reminder of the extraordinary impact her small act of kindness had created. Her life, though still possessing its share of challenges, was subtly yet profoundly enriched by this unique friendship. It gave her a sense of purpose beyond her years, a tangible proof that even the smallest gesture could ripple outwards, changing lives in unforeseen ways. She carried herself with a quiet dignity, a silent understanding of the special role she played in Rex's journey. The story of Rex and Lily, though never officially broadcast in explicit detail by the police department, gradually became an inspiring tale whispered through the community. Parents would tell their children about the brave police dog and the kind girl, framing it as a potent lesson in the importance of compassion, the power of understanding, and the unexpected places true strength can be found. It highlighted the profound and often overlooked emotional depth of animals, challenging preconceived notions about their capabilities and needs. The narrative served as a subtle but powerful reminder that caring for one another, regardless of species or circumstance, could indeed lead to the most extraordinary and heartwarming outcomes. It was a testament to the belief that empathy transcends boundaries, fostering connections that heal and empower. Officer David, witnessing the lasting impact of their story, often spoke at community events with Rex by his side. He wouldn't divulge every secret, but his anecdotes about Rex's journey always carried an underlying message. That sometimes the solutions to our biggest problems lie not in brute force or advanced technology, but in the quiet, simple acts of human connection. He saw it in the appreciative nods from the audience, in the bright eyes of children reaching out to pat Rex, in the renewed sense of hope that seemed to permeate the air. Rex, with his calm demeanor and vigilant eyes, stood as a living symbol of resilience and an enduring monument to the profound truth that kindness is never wasted. The police force, once solely focused on physical prowess, began to integrate more community-oriented programs, and Rex often played a starring role, an ambassador of goodwill and understanding. Their story, therefore, concludes not with a dramatic flourish, but with a quiet, enduring whisper of truth, that a crust of bread, offered with an open heart, can do more than merely alleviate hunger. It can mend what is broken, illuminate what is dark, and forge bonds that transcend the ordinary, proving that the most profound victories are often won not on the battlefield, but in the gentle arena of the heart. It reminds us that every life, every spirit, yearns for connection, and that sometimes all it takes is one small act of selfless devotion to bring about an extraordinary transformation. The tale of Rex and Lily, interwoven with Officer David's unwavering belief, stands as a beacon, a testament to the fact that caring for one another, embracing the unexpected, and listening to the unspoken narratives around us can lead to outcomes far more magnificent than we could ever imagine. It is a story not just about a dog or a girl or an officer, but about the enduring, transformative power of empathy in a world that often seems to forget its own capacity for genuine kindness.